Hey traders, Christian Fromhertz, Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day recap for Monday. And I would say more of the same for today. U.S. indices finished up on the day, but basically around flat today. Why I say it's more of the same is because you see just a lot of long candles here, both I guess on the downside and on the upside. What I was originally going to say is, we are really just having a tough time holding gains. Regardless of the reason, there was a couple geopolitical headlines out today, but excuses, excuses. It's basically the we just cannot hold early gains, and we can't break out of that. You can see I've drawn a downward trend line in the dotted red here for IWM, and we cannot get over that. So, regardless of the reason, small caps were up about 90 basis points, and I actually faded them a little bit today because it's just been the pattern that some days we start the day and we're up about a 0.5% or so, and we just can't hold it. So that's the pattern that we're in right now, and I think you really want to honor that while it's taking place. It just seems to me that it's logical that ahead of earnings that might be the price reaction, and that might what we get until maybe a third of the way through earnings season. I don't think that was the reason for today, but it looks like people are using any excuse right now to sell rallies and take some money, take some chips off the table. So if you end up getting, I think when the market is up early, people aren't saying, "Hey, this is a new trend." People are saying, "Great, let me sell." So which is a little bit different right now. And again, I think if you just be patient, things are going to work its way out because right now, you go back to the S&P chart, this is really tough, and I'm definitely not trading as much as I used to, or not as much as I normally do trade in options. I'm kind of just sitting with a cash portfolio, which is working quite nice. You don't have theta decay, you don't have implied volatility going down today, so going down, so you just don't have to worry about those things when you're just trading cash. You've got your defined levels, you've got your defined support. If they hit, you get out. If not, you kind of just sit and let your portfolio just kind of get through this chop, and you're not going to lose. Again, you're not going to lose that theta decay, which is definitely will happen, especially with shorter dated options. So just kind of taking a look around, and we'll go over some of the option activity. But one thing that we noticed right in the beginning of the day, there was some call buyers that came into several of the solar names. First Solar was the first one that we see, and sometimes when we see a very small trade that even though it goes up aggressively and it's a weekly trade, sometimes I kind of ignore it, but I make a mental note and say, hey, that's interesting. We haven't seen First Solar calls in a while. Then the second time it comes in, then you got to pay attention. First Solar ended up 1.8% today. Sorry, that's not right. That's the solar ETF. FSLR. That finished quite differently, up 4%. Again, still in a downtrend, but if you want to day trade these things, SPWR, they do tend to run from time to time. SPWR had a real nice day today. That was up 14%. So just like I said, day trade, definitely an opportunity to day trade. Most of these names, I really am not would not want to date would not excuse me would not want to swing trade. They're all underneath the 200-day moving average, maybe except for CSIQ, which I don't think is kind of going back up to the 200-day moving average. Last time I think people got excited once this thing popped above the 200-day moving average, but it wasn't there for long. Not to say it can't do it again on this what, third time, maybe third time's the charm. It's not there yet. It did close slightly below, but I would keep an eye on the ones that are showing a little bit more strength than others in this group. We'll see if they can put more than one day's rally together. Other than that, oil was strong. I always get a little bit wary of an early bid to oil because we saw this a lot of the times up here and it would fade. But it seems like we've got a lot of green candles that we've been putting together, and where I guess you could say we're now back into the sideways range after about a month. So we'll see if we can remain in that range and you know, pretty nice recovery and pretty quick recovery. So energy names, unlike Friday when oil was up and energy names were down, all three of the major ETFs, which I believe, as I went over in the weekend video and the weekend newsletter, there was a lot of selling that took place in energy ETFs last week. So even though energy was pretty strong last week, the performance was not great out of the three energy ETFs, XOP, OIH, and XLE. Today they were all up. XOP was up 1.7%, and and back at that 200-day moving average again. So we'll have to see how that turns out for the rest of the week. Speaking of the rest of the week, we do have a holiday on Friday, so it will even be a shortened week, which you could also, again, you could put a number of reasons why there wasn't a lot of momentum into the market. I guess that's another one, is some people are off this week. Again, geopolitical things going on, but so energy was strong, and then the Chinese internets were really strong today too. We caught this in the trading room right off the bat. We were looking at a couple of them right before the open, and I took Bob with a couple of subscribers from Tribeca Trade Group today, and I didn't even hold it through this. It looked like it actually ended on the highs today, but I got out. I just am very quick right now, just noticing that the price action has been getting faded midday and through the end of the day, that I'll take quick entries and quick exits as far as day trades go. And if you can scalp a little bit, great. And that's kind of the environment that I'm in right now with options. So real nice gain in this one. We also saw some call buying in MOMO. This thing, by the time the calls hit, a lot of people they don't mention like where the calls actually hit. In regard and footing it to the price, but I think it was right around here the calls hit. So I did not partake in that. It actually may have been here. Sorry about that. Maybe a little bit earlier. So maybe if you would have taken the calls here, you would have earned, if you traded it in cash, you had a little bit. But I don't really like, where the RSI is about a 90 or above 80. I don't really like to establish a position at that point. Plus, Momo is a little bit harder to trade in options. And then JD, which is another one that this one we've been seeing repeat call buying for the last 2 weeks. It was almost every day last week there was call buying going on to this one. So you go to the daily chart, and all of these look very, very strong right now. JD looks like there's some resistance back here, but off this recent trend just breaking out. And you go through a couple of these, and they look very similar. Look at BABA breaking out here as well. So this was a trend line that I had drawn a couple weeks ago, and we've been playing this one in the room quite frequently. So real nice move. This does have some resistance back here, but if you watch my previous videos, I've talked about BABA in the past. So really, really strong and closing right on the highs today in a market that did not do that today. So and then retail was strong today too. You'll see retail is just kind of, to me, I just kind of label it as funny. Right when you think retail is dead, you'll see. I almost think there are short squeezes in the whole group. But when you look at the overall, for something that's way below the 200-day moving average, this name can have some really big ripping days. I think we saw one day last week where this group will be up 2%. So you have to just be on the alert for this if you're short retail. Anytime there's some positive that happens, even if it's one name in the whole retail sector, sometimes it causes the whole group to rally. So another area was strong in I wouldn't say weak tape, but not a tape with momentum today. And then on the downside, I think a lot of people are starting to look. I did mention semis, and it does look. I said I would not short these things, or I would not play these to the downside until they break. So we got today, I'd say the first crack really. You see the close below that blue line. So support here is 77.68, and I think you really want to be choosy right now in the semi space. Nvidia just completely is continuing to get hammered here, now falling outside of value, fell all the way to down 2.5% today, 97.77, and that's a break below value. So you have to honor that it is what it is. It's no longer in value. Started the month in value, kind of was having a difficult time holding it. I would watch this area next for a break and notice if you do break further. I think you got the 200-day moving average that's kind of sitting there. Still looking at this position. I have a VNM because I was looking at this towards the end of the day, trying to figure out if I wanted to take a position. I'm going to wait until this gets a little bit above the 200-day moving average before I commit to this trade. But I am looking at this one closely. Just going to NVIDIA and looking at maybe a 1-year chart rather than a 6-month chart. You could see now we're decently below the 100-day moving average. So next stop, if we can't hold here, which is basically right where the stock is, we could be moving down to the 200-day moving average, which hasn't broken the 100-day moving average in a long time. So it does look like something different is taking place here in this stock, and this has been a leader of the group. So besides that, the banks were weak again today. Bonds were up. Really no change here in bonds. Might as well look at bonds and gold, and then we'll call it an evening. There's still for me nothing to do here. I've been watching this every morning and every how it closes at the end of the day, and we're still not outside of that trend line. So again, I would rather be late and correct than early and wrong, because if you've tried to play this a couple times before and say, hey, bonds are going to rally, they failed right here. So a lot of consolidation here. I'm really interested to see which way that's going to move, not just because of bonds, but also because the yields affect so many different things. They obviously affect they obviously affect financials. If bonds rally and yields come down, we could see more downside, I think, for financials, which have really been underperforming. If it starts to go the other way and bonds rally and yields go lower, well, that's still the same way. But in terms of the other way, I mean, it could be really good for the bond proxies, the utilities, the REITs, some of those higher dividend yielding names. We'll start to see possibly a rotation into those names. So that remains to be seen. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because we have not broken that trend, but just kind of looking at what would happen if it does, I think you want to be ready to maybe look at some of those more, I don't know, I wouldn't exactly say defensive areas, but more higher yielding areas that will probably do better if bonds start to rally here. So the other thing is, just looking at some of the things that I was mentioning for today's themes, just kind of another negative thing, which I can't find it, is iron ore. Iron ore broke the 100-day moving average. So, big uptrend for iron ore since, September, October, really, right around the election time. But that's now firmly breaking down here in iron ore. So, I know the steel names were very hot for a while, but I have to tell you, I got rid of my last steel name on Friday. I was owning TS, which I'm not sure. There was a big block of TS that went up today, but I don't know if they added to that position or they took it down. I think some people are thinking that they added to it, but I'll check open interest tomorrow. This was the name that I was long and I sold out of on Friday. But again, I would rather not be in these names with iron ore breaking down as it is. Just some other names that we saw some aggressive call buying in today. Lulu, I was very. I tried a Lulu long last week, and it just didn't move on Friday. I was in a small weekly position, but it got the day that I was what I was looking for on Friday to happen. We saw this on Thursday. I made some money, just a little bit of money. Friday it did nothing, and now moving back here. So had a nice day today, up 3.2%. And we did see some Lulu calls. I just could not get back into Lulu this morning after just exiting it on Friday. I let my last piece expire, worthless, that were weekly calls. Besides that, yeah, a little bit of Yandex calls. That name's on the 200-day moving average. That's the Russian internet name. Right on the 200-day moving average. So, maybe worthy of a bounce. If not, you've got your defined support. I would say maybe try along here, but if it fails at the 200-day, I would personally be getting out. Besides, we talked about the solar names, and then also we saw Whole Foods calls go up early in the morning, and I actually decided close to the end of the day that you look at a daily chart in Whole Foods and you're like, okay, wow, this thing was up 10%. As was it Jana announced that they have a stake in it, and they're going to be looking to kind of shake up the board as well. If you zoom out of here, you could see that this thing has been in a big downtrend for a long time. Let me actually put this with all the moving averages on here. So I actually took a small position at the end of the day after the news was out because sometimes these things have a couple days. I mean, it's just above the 200-day moving average. Would I have liked to own it here? Sure, absolutely, at 31 bucks. But if you zoom out to, let's see, a 2 or 3 year chart, sometimes these things have a way of getting the stock out of a sideways range when somebody starts to enter into the position. Notice how long this thing has been moving sideways after it's been, if you go back to maybe a 5 year chart, you can see what kind of a downtrend this thing has been in. Maybe it will be able to knock itself out of this sideways range and maybe start to perk up. And sometimes, again, when somebody an activist or a big fund puts in a big stake and wants to change the company up a lot, the price action really starts to react. So I took home a small position in May calls, just kind of took a flyer on it just to see if we have some continuation in Whole Foods. Before we saw the Whole Foods calls, we actually saw Kroger's calls as well, and last week we saw more Sprouts Farmers calls as well. So all of a sudden the supermarkets are getting a little bit of attention. So that's it. A couple other, the last theme I would say is there's a lot of puts that have been going up in the European names. You know, I continue to see every week for the last 3 weeks, there's been a lot of investment going into Europe. All of those names right there, also nice inflows last week and for the last couple weeks in ETFs. But we are seeing some put buying, and to me, it looks like the put buying is being centered around the French election. So I think people are taking protection. So keep that in mind. If other funds are doing it, think about if you want to do that as well. Considering that these are not small trades. Some of them that are going up in VGK and Fez. And that happened as well last week as well. We saw puts go up. So just keep that in mind that we are going to have another big vote that's going to get some attention soon. All right, so that's the end of the recap for the day. Have a great night, and I'll see you back on Tuesday morning. And we are having an open house, by the way, just for pre-market. You guys can kind of see what our analysis that we do pre-market. We're doing that starting at 8:40 in the morning, and you can find that on my Twitter feed. But 8:40 in the morning till 9:30, I want to show people the analysis that we do in the morning rundown. I really don't think anybody does the comprehensive rundown that we do pre-market to kind of get you ready for the day. So check us out. We'll be doing that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week. Thank you very much.